And then musically, it's a song that was kind of a real slow folk song, actually, that was very pensive and kind of quiet. And but I knew it had the potential to kind of make sense if you drove it. You know, if you kind of pushed it, it kind of could rock too. And so we went there with it. We kind of explored pushing it. And but it was, where was that in terms of the record? I think it was one of the later tunes that I felt like was a song that kind of did everything. It's like a great, you know, it's really the second song on the record, but the first official song versus the intro tune. And it kind of feels like it's a classic Cynic song in the old sense too, in that it kind of covers a lot of territory, but it does it all in kind of disguising ways where we have a motif, but we're doing it where when we return to the motif, it's not as obvious to the ear until you keep listening, and then it's like, oh, I recognize that section. And so we play a lot with those ideas conceptually in terms of kind of repeating things, but trying not to be really blatant about it, you know, so it's disguised and feels like the song's evolving, you know. But yeah, it's kind of curious, and it does have that one drum kind of solo-y part that was straight out of an improvised moment where I started playing a D pedal and improvising these changes on top of it, and Sean just started doing his thing, and I was like, ooh, this works as a bridge kind of idea. And so that had a real true thing that became, and Sean I think still doesn't really play what he played on the record live. He always just is free about that, which is cool too.
But it is really kind of impressive how it goes from this acoustical folk song thing into what's frankly, it's a metal song. It's a rock and roll metal song, and it's very powerful.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like we're our roots are, as kids we were prog rockers and we got into metal and everything, but we definitely have this inherent, like, it's in our biology to kind of make things. So, and I just feel like, essentially, and I've learned this as a songwriter for so many years, that writing folk songs, that when you got a good tune, you can do anything you want with it. Stylistically, you can go anywhere. It can go country, it can go metal, it can go, and it's really a question of how you want to approach it, production-wise and style, So for us, doing this prog metal-y thing, it's just kind of natural, It's kind of, let's push it and do this. But what's curious, and you'll probably get a kick out of, is we have an EP coming out where we do Traced in Air, and it's more the roots of the song. Kind of gone more sci-fi prog. It's kind of futuristic-y, but very much the roots, especially the beginning of the song, of almost like the demo. It's kind of coming home, which is cool.
Well, I'm coming to you because I think Between the Buried and Me is the greatest band in the whole world. I'm just, I'm really obsessed about those guys, and I came to see you guys because of that. And I think that, in a way, bands like Between the Buried and Me and bands like what you're trying to do here, or what you are doing here, really forces the listener to do away with a lot of misconceptions and a lot of prejudices that they have coming in.
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot of it's almost like a palate cleansing. You have to just let go, and it requires your attention. It requires energy. It's not background music.
Foreground music. Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, so it's a different kind of aesthetic in terms of what it attracts audience-wise, but I think it really, and it's probably a smaller percentage of the general public, but the rewards are much greater when you give yourself the time to appreciate this kind of music, because it bears so many gifts if you just surrender to it, and really give it some energy, give it some time.
I want to talk briefly with you as well about Evolutionary Sleeper. What was the approach on that?
So I want burn, an evolutionary sleep.
That was the first song written, actually, for the record. We had done that when we reunited before even making Trace Denaire. It was kind of like our re-entry into the scene song. And it's a song, I guess it's funny, it definitely was a folky little ditty and its roots, you know. But what's curious is when that kind of busier riff transpired, which was kind of almost a Cynic-y kind of metal-y rock thing, Sean approached it with this almost samba kind of Latin groove, and the whole thing just shifted, and it was like, whoa, okay, here's the vibe of this tune now, you know, and it took on this different space. But I like that juxtaposition that the song has of this almost kind of fierce presence, but also this intense emotional kind of energy. It's like very driving and complex, especially the verses and stuff. But then it's heart-wrenching too. It's got this like very kind of the heart melody, you know. To me, it's heart-centered. And the song is definitely, in terms of the lyrical aspect, it's basically about learning how to let go of life as we know it and letting it be what it is. Just kind of showing up and not imposing our own agenda on our experience and just letting life do what it needs to do. And it's not necessarily a passive approach. It's just being open to what's arising versus thinking we have control over it.
It's like people who obsess about the meaning of life, and the meaning is the life. The meaning is the living of it. It's not the words that we associate
Exactly.
with it.
Yeah. Life is happening regardless. Our bodies don't need us to breathe. It'll just keep breathing, right? So it's one of those things. Life is just going to keep doing what it's doing. The question is, do we want to coexist with it and be part of this thing that's happening all as one thing, essentially, instead of... Yeah, it's interesting how the separation takes place and we get into our stories and we think life's over there or next week or that job or that... it's amazing. We torture ourselves when it's thinking that somehow the past or the future has the answer. It's a dilemma of us humans. Yeah, dilemma of the mind.